Here's a question from Bram. He wants to know when he applies the fade out video animation effect to a video clip, it's applied to the beginning of the clip and not the end of the clip. And it doesn't seem to make any sense to him. Let's just explore fades and different ways that you can do that and what this fade out is really used for. So just so we're all on the same page, what he's talking about is he has a video clip on the timeline and he goes over here to animation and it says preset animations, and he has these animations here, and here is the fade out. And if we hold our mouse over it, and let me just move this over here, we hold the mouse over here and we double click, we get some keyframes right here which applies a fade out to the very beginning. And like he says, that doesn't make any sense. If all you're interested in is a fade out at the end of a clip and you don't want to be moving things to the back end, don't be using the fade out here. This is a special fade out with special attributes. Go to transition, type in fade, here's your fade effect, click the little plus sign, and notice that it gets applied to the very end of the clip. If there was two clips next to each other, it would span the two because it's a transition. It would be fade out and fade in. But this basically would fade out your image just like that, which is what you want to do. You wouldn't be using this special animation tool. Now, these are new tools that have been put in the newer versions of Filmora, I think around, I don't know, version 12, 13, thereabouts. It used to be we only had what they now call the legacy motions. And they have a fade here. This is a fade in, not a fade out. And I don't believe that they have a fade out. But if you double click on this one, in fact, it would be applied to the front of the video. So it would be a fade here where you're fading in, which is exactly what you're saying you didn't want to do. Okay, obviously, if you wanted to manually create a fade, one would be over here in basic, down in composition. One would apply a keyframe to wherever one wanted to start it. It could either hit the keyframe tool right there, or you could have just hit it there. It would have been 100%. Hit Shift End, go to the last frame, and then go ahead and just drag down that to 0. Now we have a fade out right here. So that's a manual way of doing it. But that's not what these are for. Oops, not these. These new preset animations. And I'll show you what they're for. Okay, you'll notice that when we double click it, like he says, they get applied to the front and you have to drag the keyframes over. But that's really not the purpose of these anyway. When we do a fade, you'll notice that it's a rather linear. In other words, it's if it's a straight line. These tools allow you to vary the speed. It could start out slow and then speed up, or it could start out fast and then slow down, or whatever. And the other thing is, maybe they shouldn't have this double click option here, because if you drag it down, you'll see that you've got the not here symbol, the red and white symbol there, but it also shows you the keyframes with the beginning and end keyframe. And when you have it here and you drop in over a clip, you can see that it's kind of selects the clip, and you now then manually decide where is it that you want to apply this effect. And okay, maybe we want to apply it up here because we're going to run some other kind of animation, and yes, we can split this out, although I'm not really sure the purpose of that. But we could also take then a fade in and we could drop that behind it. So in other words, it's going to be faded out between these two, and then once it gets to here, it's going to fade back in. So let's just scrub across that. We can see now we have the fade out, and now we have the fade in. Okay, now I'm just going to clear this out and right-click, filters, delete. Okay, so we're back to normal. Okay, so we know that these now have a special tool for being able to do different things. Take a look right here when I drop it back in here again. And you notice this little icon just got popped on here to the clip. And that means something else. There's something called the graph editor where you can actually graph out the movement. And you can also, once you have put these keyframe on there, and it doesn't have to be one of these keyframes, it could just be one of these keyframes here. This allows you now to set the speed at which something occurs. So let's just, you can right click on it here, and you can see here where it says show keyframe animation. And you could also just click on it. And here we have the graph editor, they call it. And the way it works is you click on the thing that you want to change. You want to change the X scale. Then now the X scale is down here on the graph editor. You'll see down here at the bottom is our clip. Then above that is the thing that we're working on. And in the case of the fade, we've already determined that that's opacity. So if we click on opacity, we can now see we have actual graph of how the fade is occurring. And this is very linear, okay? It just goes over here, and this is where the fade occurs, just like that. Now, each one of these keyframes here can be selected. If we move this keyframe, all of the keyframes above for all of the other actions also get moved. But we can click right here on the editor, and now we can do special things with this. We can move it up and down. And by the way, you don't have to have this right on top of it. We can move it up or down. We can say we want to have this much action or that much action, whatever, at this point. And we can have this one here. But you'll notice that these presets lit up. So we've selected this keyframe here, and we can apply this effect to it right here. Ease out, ease in. Ease in means come in slowly and then speed up. Ease out means come in fast but slow down. And when we apply that, you notice that we now have a curve here, and we have this handle. This handle allows us to change the speed of the action. Now we could have something that fades drastically in the beginning and then kind of tapers out. Okay, so you're customizing the fade, basically, is what it is. And you can also customize this one down here. Now you've applied some special thing there. Let's put a different kind of action on this one here. And you get a handle here, and we can now stretch this. We can take this one, we can stretch this here. Let's see if I can do that. Click and drag it down, and look at that. I can make it fade out instantly as if the two were close together. You notice that it fades out right away. In other words, you're customizing the speed of the fade or whatever animation it is that you want. The animation doesn't have to be the opacity. It could be one of these other things as well. So that's the utility of these animations as opposed to the legacy animations. Legacy animations are just that. They work in a linear motion. They do the action that is shown on there. You can't do anything else with them. These preset animations allow you to assign a preset action to the graph or to the clip, and it allows you to put multiple actions onto something. And I think we need to possibly bring this one up at this end here. So, and let's go there. So now we've added the spin. We have the fade out. We have the spin. We can take multiple actions and we can drop it on our clip, and we can get crazy. It all depending on what it is that you have in mind. I'd like to be able to do this or that. And then on top of that, you can customize the speed at which the action occurs. If you're using the path curve, you can then make the thing float around. So you can even assign your own motion. You want your little image to dance all around the frame. You can do that. These are just preset motions. So they're going to give you the basic keyframes necessary to create that motion. You then are expected to go in and then customize that motion to fit your needs. That's the difference between this and a transition fade or one of the legacy fades. It has extra power, extra tools for you to customize. A little epilogue here. I forgot to tell you how to close this up. Obviously, you can right-click on it and you can say Hide Key Animation. Or again, you can just simply click this little icon right there. And then you have closed up the graph editor. Open the graph editor, close the graph editor.